What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Solana today at the request of Random. Random, we're doing this for you. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get going. So Solana, we're sitting at about $230, and we are right at our previous all-time highs, right? If we look at this right here, put a line right there, we broke just above it, just above our previous all-time highs. And now we're finding resistance. We have this somewhat of a double top look. My thoughts are it does not stop here. My thought is we're not going to pull back and consolidate for months or go down, the cycle's over. That's not what my opinion is. My opinion is that what we did was we moved up, right? And then we consolidated for a very long amount of time. We moved up a little bit, but we didn't stop there. We progressed really high. Okay, and then we consolidated for a little bit of time and we moved up a little bit, right? But then when we consolidated a long amount of time, we just broke out. Are we going to move up just a little bit, or do we have more to go? You know, this where we are now, it's not even comparable to like this zone over here. It's not even comparable, right? We're actually lower. We are finding turbulence a little earlier, sure, but this was not in the middle of a price, like a significant price area. You know what I mean? This is a lot more significant. So we're pulling back a little bit now, but I absolutely believe Solana has more to go in the very near term. And I was looking at some things. We'll look at it together. I think it's kind of interesting, but we're at 230 right now. By this fib, the very immediate fib that you're on, it would make sense that you go all the way up to 312, if not higher, before this move's done. Now, in the midst of that, I know I was saying that you're probably not going to go down, but you could go down a little bit. You're at 229 now. You could pull back to 194. Right down in this area. It's very common to actually pull back to your 100 and 886 area, especially if you can't even break above the 1414. I found it's even common enough to go below your 886 and into the 786 area. So you could go as low as 182, and that's fine. It's basically back testing right where you broke out of, back over here, right? If here's your megaphone down, I'll delete all these things, but if that's your megaphone down, right, you broke out right here. I'm gonna bring it back, right there. You could pull down to 182. It could happen. Maybe 194. Maybe you hold 210. But I do believe you're probably going to go down a little bit. Yes, there is bearish divergence on your weekly RSI. It did form back here. I would think you do go at least a little bit below $200. I say there's bearish divergence. I don't know. I don't know if I'd count that as bearish divergence, but definitely a little bit of bearish divergence on the daily, and it would suggest you probably do go lower. The daily RSI is also, it's actually kind of in a make it or break it point right now. With these higher lows, you know, did you break out of it already? Are you about to break out of it? You know, what's the look? That wasn't, you saw what I was going for. I didn't mean to delete it. This right here, right? Which one's true? If you already broke out of it, okay, you're probably going to go down. You probably will consolidate for a little bit. If you break out of this, same thing, right? But you could bounce right here. If you bounce right here, cool. Then I'm wrong. You're going to move up 312 by the middle of December, if not higher, right? I'm going to delete all of these ugly lines on here. 312 by the middle of December, if not higher. If you move up like immediately, like today, if you were to engulf yesterday's price, you don't even have to engulf it. Just get above the opening price yesterday. Get above like 237, and that'll invalidate me. Don't get above it. Stay above it. Break above it, right? But if not, then yes, maybe you've broken out of your daily uptrend. You consolidate for a little bit. When I say a little bit, guys, again, I'm not referring to this, right? I'm not even referring to something like this. It's going to be a lot shorter, right? We'd be done with this in less than a week's time probably, if not like not even 2 weeks time at the most. And then we move up, right? Something like that. So if we do consolidate more, and I think we do, it won't be long, maybe a week and a half or so at the most. But then I think ultimately Solana's moving up to $301, $441, and potentially even beyond that. This is just the primary kind of fib that we have. And actually, whenever you take small fib ranges like this on this kind of scale from a high to a low, again, would it make sense to break out of your megaphone pattern and just stop right here, or would it be more plausible that you could go higher to your secondary area? You know, something like that. And then if we take that secondary area into consideration, we take our overall bear cycle high to low, we can see that secondary area, it actually, damn, it doesn't even come into the primary target zone of this fib. And I would expect to respect this fib. So that's crazy, man. projecting out, you can see the 3618 golden ratio and the 3786 line up pretty well with this 1414, which is very close to $1,000 on all accounts. So that makes sense. That could be your cycle high for Solana, right? Something like that. $1,000, very psychological number. If that doesn't hold, you're probably going to go to like 2,200 or at least, you know, near 2,000. Target's just above 3,000. Target's just below 2,000. But I like that 2,200 area probably. If you were to break above 1,000, but I don't know if you do. I think that's probably where you get held up. You're at 228 right now, probably pulling down a little bit to about 200, maybe 190. You could go lower, and it's okay, but then you're going to go up. Some stuff that I found was interesting, and actually we can look at this real quick before we get into the other stuff. Let's do this real quick. Looking at the monthly chart, very bullish. You had a bullish cross here, consolidated a little bit afterwards, but you're on the expansive phase of this bullish cross now. It's going to be awesome. Weekly ribbon. Also getting into that expansive phase, right? You were contracting a little bit and now you're expanding. Like you really are just beginning these moves. That's what this indicator is telling me. And then here the daily is telling exactly what we were saying, right? You're going to consolidate, right? When have you consolidated every other time, right? If we go back here, you're moving up, the bands are expanding, right? I mean, the consolidation, you came into the ribbon here, but then really once you had your move in full, once you got back in the ribbon, that's where you saw your consolidation phase. And it was actually a prolonged kind of thing. But I don't think we're going to see that level of consolidation. I think it'll be very shorter, a lot shorter, but still, just getting into the ribbon now on the daily makes sense that we would consolidate. Generally, this is what we see when we consolidate. When we're running, we're finding support off the ribbon, not getting into it. So anyways, what I really wanted to talk about was SOL BTC. And I think this chart's interesting because there's a lot of hope for Solana to still outperform BTC. Right? If we look at the weekly RSI, it's not the worst looking thing. It's not the best looking thing. It's very neutral, right? If you look at this, if you don't look at it for what it is of like a downtrend here, you don't look at it for what it is of like an uptrend this way, you know, however you want to look at it. If you just look at it for what it's been relatively recently, it's very neutral. And if anything, it's lived above the 50 more than it's lived below the 50. It won't even hit the 40. It's at least hit the 60 and even gotten above the 60. It's more bullishly charged is what it seems to me. And I would think that you're going to move higher. And technically, too, if you look at this on a weekly aspect, damn it, I keep doing this. You did break out of this. You broke out of that downtrend, right? Just like whenever you broke out of your uptrend here, that was probably the beginnings of not good times, right? Literally, right there, you broke out of your uptrend right here near the top. That was the beginning of the sideways times, right? But now you've consolidated enough. You had your downtrend in the RSI. All you could do with your downtrend was muster higher lows and lower highs. This is Solana versus Bitcoin, not versus the US dollar, right? And you've broken out of it to the upside. I would think you're about to rip. I would think you're about to see Solana grow versus Bitcoin. But again, I say hope because there also is doubt implied in this, right? It is a very neutral kind of pattern. This, whatever you want to call it. You want to call it a symmetrical triangle. You want to call it, I don't know what else you would call it. Maybe a diamond. Maybe it's some kind of diamond. I don't know. Diamonds can be weird, but I don't think I mean, it could be, but I don't know. I definitely see the symmetrical triangle right here. But all I'm trying to say is you can break down from this pattern. Generally, whenever you build bullishly into a pattern like this, you do break bullishly. That's the more common outcome. But this is an inherently neutral pattern. We absolutely could move down. It's something to be aware of. And what that would look like really is just prices essentially below what we've done today already. If we break this trend noticeably, it doesn't have to break that line. I just drew it roughly, right? You can see there's lows below that line already. If we break the trend noticeably, then that would probably imply that Solana is going to lose value versus Bitcoin, which would then imply that even though I think Solana is going up higher in price in US dollars, it would be actually better to hold Bitcoin. And that would be crazy. Because if it's better to hold Bitcoin than Solana right now, it's better to, like Bitcoin, it's in altcoin season. So I wouldn't expect that it goes down. Really, I think Solana is about to gain value versus Bitcoin. And, you know, you're probably going to see something about 0.0028 to 0.0036 or higher. And I mean, genuinely, it's not going to stop there. I think you'll see new highs, at least on this Binance chart versus Bitcoin that you've never seen before. You might even reach for 1%, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, 1% would make sense, right? $1,000. And off of 100K, but I don't see Solana being at $1,000 by the time Bitcoin's at 100K, unless I'm just wrong on my dollar analysis and it goes up. Well, we did have higher targets than 1,000. I don't know. That's an argument. This chart's kind of actually a good argument to be made that Solana could be going. You guys, Solana could be going to $1,000 really soon. Because think about it, right? If this chart, unless it doesn't do, you know, we're at this turning point. Unless it doesn't break out to the upside. If it breaks out to the downside, then maybe not. I don't know. And these BTC charts, they don't always follow the same rules exactly. Like hitting their all-time highs, that's an accomplishment enough. You can you don't have to go to these lines. They're just ideas, but still. Anyways, I thought this chart was exciting. It'd be nice to see it break up to the upside, not to the downside. I don't think you will, but relatively exciting chart. The weekly RSI looks good. And then if we look at Solana versus ETH, which knowing this now about Solana versus Bitcoin, I think Solana versus ETH is an interesting chart. Because to me, this is actually a bearish looking chart, right? You had your uptrend, you formed your downtrend, you had your uptrend, and you've just broken out of it. You've actually double topped your weekly RSI. Looks like you're reaching it. It looks like it's topped, right? It really does look like it's topped. And if we go from a high point here to a low point, I don't know. Yeah, exactly what I was just saying about the the SOL BTC chart. You don't have to reach these lines. These charts aren't as rigid with the rules. They're a little more flexible, right? And crypto's more flexible anyways. But still, crypto respects the fibs pretty well. But enough of that. Anyways, low to high. Maybe not. Maybe I should throw this back on. I would think that Solana versus ETH is going to lose value, is what I'm trying to get to, right? I think you're just ending your uptrend and you're beginning your downtrend, right? And that's very common. Oftentimes, whenever you consolidate like this, and it was an upward consolidation, if you break out but you don't get that same kind of vitality that you had moving into this pattern, and you have all the reasons to explore higher but you just don't, that normally means this is a fake out to some degree, or just you ran out of steam. So now you go back to the likely support areas, which would at least be 5.8% of an Ethereum per Solana. Hold on. Or sorry, would it be 5.8% of a Solana per Ethereum? One Solana would be worth 5.8% of an Ethereum, or potentially as low as 4.5% of an Ethereum, and potentially lower, because if this is a significant high, the last time you had a significant high, well, down you went. But that was the end of the bull cycle. I don't know. I could really see Ethereum outpacing Solana in the short term, but maybe not so much that it drops all the way. It could drop all the way down here and still be fine, but maybe it holds something like around here and just keeps working its way up. Maybe you're in some kind of bullish channel. Huh. Things to think about. Right now, it doesn't look good. It definitely looks like you have a good ways to go. If you hold support here at 5.8, that's good. That's definitely a good sign. But likely, you probably will go to at least 4.5, if not lower. So let's just see how you handle this area. I definitely think you're going to go down, which would imply that over the weeks, because this is the weekly time frame, over the weeks, over the months, you probably see Ethereum do better than Solana, which also probably means Ethereum-based meme coins could grow more than Ethereum-based or Solana-based meme coins. I don't know if that'll reign true, because Solana still has the cheaper prices, but if Ethereum's popping, all the little babies are going to follow, And the daily RSI looks like shit, so I definitely think it's going lower. Anyways, up versus Bitcoin, potentially. We haven't made that decision yet. Up versus the dollar, absolutely. And then down versus Ethereum is what I'm guessing, especially like in the short term and the midterm is what I'm thinking. So that's all I got. If you guys like the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Overall, the US dollar pair looks really good, really bullish. If you pull back at all, it's going to be temporary, very brief, and you won't pull down that much. The amount of upside that you have to go, I mean, genuinely, we pulled out examples that could lead us to believe that you could see $1,000 in a very, very short amount of time, man. Like by the end of January, if not by the end of April. But we'll see. I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see. I would think more something that's, new all-time highs, but not $1,000. Let's see. By the end of January, I'm thinking, come on now, probably around like 670. Yeah. If we're not there, if we're not at 670, we'll at least do something where we reach for it, and maybe we pull back and consolidate. But again, you don't have to hit these lines. They're not requirements. They're just ideas. But ultimately, where the move ends, it probably is going to be somewhere in this area, is my thoughts. But if you hit 1,000, man, you hit $1,100 by the end of January, even by the end of April, Solana has a real chance to be worth more than $2,000, right? So it depends. This target gets a lot more likely if you hit this target early on, right? And the higher, the better, right? So just do your thing. It probably consolidates for now. You probably do pull back a little bit for now, but you're gonna run in your due time. Toward the end of this month and going into the beginning of next year, you're gonna really kick off well. So, anyways, that's all I got. Hit that like button, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care. Bye bye.